Was Irish.
Whose?
Winston Churchill's mother was Irish.
Well, Irish American, I guess. Yeah, that's right. She was. Yeah, she was American, but she had Irish. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, well, he had. That's why he was a fighter. Pardon?
He's just going on about Churchill. We're digressing over here. Sorry.
Yeah, we don't want to get into Churchill. But anyway, but I love these little digressions. That I love those.
I have a question.
Yeah, we should be doing questions now. Let's do questions.
It certainly appeals to me. It may appeal to the girls because certainly we've seen the website for the Pirate Queen movie and or the musical. I'm sorry. And I just wonder, when Gráinne went to see Queen Elizabeth, was she Elizabethanized? I mean, was she dressed in a courtly manner, or do I kind of envision her as in a more, I don't know, barbaric way, or was she? I mean, you're making her seem very educated and very civilized and very courtly.
Well, she was very smart, and she could do whatever she pleased. She could have dressed up as an Elizabethan courtier just as easily as she would as a wild Irish chieftainess. And she chose a wild Irish chieftainess. There was no question. She dressed in the old traditional Irish chieftain family. She was a chieftain. She really was a chieftain. And so she dressed as such. And what was also interesting is she openly carried a dagger, because that was part. Yeah, she walked into the thing with openly carrying a dagger, I think, because that was part of the way that she lived. And of course there was consternation over that. And Elizabeth said, "No, that's okay, because she's carrying that for her own. She's carrying that for protection from you guys." Not the other way around. And I think she voluntarily she made her point. And I think then after she had sort of settled in, I think she voluntarily gave it to somebody, probably one of her own people, who in turn would have given it to, but so as not to, cause a continuous stir. Yes.
Could you clarify the purpose of her going to England again?
Basically to get Elizabeth to rein in Richard Bingham. He was an autocrat. He was he was a wild man, and he had run into trouble in his own in Britain at the court quite a few times, and came down close to being put in jail. So she knew that he was a wild man, but she was used to wild men. She had a lot of crazy guys on her in her commission. That was part of the deal in a way. She wasn't running a monastery or a monk's thing. She understood that nasty things happen when you're building a nation. Any other questions?
Yeah, you've mentioned several times she was in the commerce business, she was a trader. She really wasn't a pirate. That was a name attached to her by the
She could do that when occasion arose if she defend herself. Pardon?
What was her business? How'd she make her money?
Oh.
What kind of business?
Trade. She was a quintessential trader. When she came ashore in Spain, let's say, or anywhere, they did business. And in those days, that's how it was done. If a fleet of ships came in, and not a single boat, but a fleet came in, and they did their little dance with each other. Okay, well, what you got? So they'd go backwards and forwards, and there'd be some preliminaries, and there'd be receptions in the castle, and maybe a reception out in the boat, all that stuff. And then they'd start getting down to business, and they would horse trade. Now, she was the chief, so when she arrived in wherever she arrived, in Bilbao in Spain, or in Lisbon, or whatever, she got the best price of whatever she had. So she was absolutely, completely a trader, a commercial trader. But everything else had to go with it. You didn't go out into that world and not be prepared to defend yourself, and not be able to make deals and to speak the language and to survive in a hostile environment, which was, if you arrived in Algiers or Casablanca or any of those places, they were all trying to figure out like how well are these. Do they have a sting in them, or can we crawl ashore or crawl aboard and steal something, and toss them overboard after a few of those? I guess they're pretty tough guys. So, it was a rough world.
So there wasn't any particular product like rum that she traded and made money on?
No, she would have been the export arm, if you like, of Irish commerce. So that's why she was also important to the other chiefs, particularly the Flahertys, because there was no point in growing vast amounts of wool and clipping sheep and having it pile up and going rotten in a warehouse unless there was somebody out there who could get it to a market somewhere.
She provided the
She
ships.
provided the ships, and that's how she made a lot of money. And that goes back to the Phoenicians and the Greeks. The port of Piraeus. If there wasn't a merchant maritime class to bring that stuff, there wasn't much point in growing it up on the hills. So that was a well-established part of the ancient world. And the maritime chieftains were very important. They were not rich in land, although they would have their own land. The area that they have, by the way, some of you were looking at the map. The area that the family owned, if you like, as land was a place called Uil. And it was...
Apple?
Well, it was actually in an 18th century map in England, actually written as Uil, apple. They had apple down on it, and the Irish would laugh because Uil had nothing to do with apples, except that the Irish word for apple is Uil. It comes from Agle. It's actually goes further back, and it means eagle. It's the Old Gaelic word for eagle. And Croagh that dominates the coastal strip called the Uils, was, prior to Christianity, known as Eagle Mountain. And there was obviously a lot of eagles there. And there still are, to some extent, not very many, but there are. So the area was known as the area of the eagles, the Uils. And it was a very distinct tua, and the actual name O'Malley is not, as has come down to us, originating with Grace the Bald. I'll go into that in a second. That's again apocryphal. The name goes back to the Uils. Again, remember I said that names of places and the people are identical. So the Oul, or the was the people of the Uils. How it precisely became O'Malley's, but if you go further back, the M is not sharp like it is now. It was Oul, or there's various the older you go back, the more it sounds like Oul and Eagle. The story about how Gráinne Mhaol, Grace. Now Gráinne is a very old Gaelic Irish name, and it doesn't mean grace. It's just that it approximates to grace, and because there's no Gráinne in Ireland, in the English language, they chose, well, it sounds like grace, so we'll call her Grace. So Grace O'Malley is a very anglicised version of Gráinne Mhaol, Gráinne Mhaol of Mhaol, Gráinne Mhaol, Gráinne Mhaol, but it's far from being Gráinne Mhaol. But the English, or somebody in much later times, came up with a very nice story to explain it, and that was that young Grace, Gráinne, wasn't allowed to go on the boat with her father because she was a girl, and he didn't want her getting raped or whatever, or hurting herself. So he was, like most fellows, says, "You stay at home, you little twerp, what, you're not coming on to Spain with us, So she cut off her hair, cut her hair to make herself like a boy, and went on some other boat, alongside. And it wasn't until maybe they got to Spain or Portugal that they discovered that, that his daughter was on the other ship. But anyway, the Irish word for bald or no hair is moil. Moil. Is moil. If Shanti was here, he'd confirm that. So they called her Gráinne Mhaol. Gráinne Mhaol. In other words, bald Grace or bald Gráinne. And maybe, that may have been maybe a play on words too, who knows. But Gráinne Mhaol. And apparently, the story of her sneaking on board is probably true because it has been repeated in various other. And apparently, she used to wear her hair short.